Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. This time we got a video for you on starting and germinating your seeds. So let's go over some of the things we're going to cover. What are we going to do?
Oh, we're going to cover the lighting that you're going to need.
And we're going to go over heat mats and heat.
And maybe humidity domes, what's good and what's bad, what to look for.
And watering.
Yeah, and the soil mixture and...
a couple, maybe a few secrets on methods of planting your little seeds down in the holes.
Yeah.
Something that maybe you have never seen or heard of before that will increase your chance of having healthy seedlings and starts.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll learn something on this one.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it.
Okay. So you might wonder why somebody want to start seeds. I'll go to all this trouble, buying all this stuff, getting all this paraphernalia to start your own seeds when you could just go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or something like that and just buy plants already growing. But you're so limited. If you're going to go there, you're going to find maybe something that might work for you this year, and then next year they won't have it, and you think, oh man, they don't have my favorite tomato or my favorite cucumber, so now you're stuck. You don't have your good food anymore. And so that's one of the reasons why we started our own. You have a choice of varieties that work for you and that are your favorites. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason would be is the stuff at the Home Depot or big box stores are going to be just probably got Osmocote synthetic fertilizers sitting in the pot.
That doesn't sound very good.
No, it's just synthetic, and it's like yuck, not good for you. That translates into your fruit that you're going to be eating. You don't want to eat that stuff. So this is all organic, of course, and you can get sometimes organic stuff at the big box stores, but you're going to pay more money for them, and a very limited, narrow variety of what's optional out there that you can choose from. So when you do your own, you can choose anything. Just go to the seed catalog and you just feast your eyes on all those beautiful plants they tempt you with on the seed catalog and pay the fortune. They're pretty expensive nowadays, and that's why I try to save a lot of my own seed if they're not hybrid, and that saves you a lot of money because tomatoes you can save a lot of seeds and it don't cost you anything. So that's kind of the pros of doing your own seed starting. It does take a little bit of experience to get used to it, know what you're doing, and to have success. But maybe with this video, you'll be able to knock that out of the park and have great success the first time around.
Yeah.
So to start with, you're going to need a potting soil, starting soil. This is something I've mixed up here. We also sell Sutherland Organics, a starting and a potting mix. And this is what that's come out shipped to you in the mail. This is what, 1 cubic foot, Luke?
Yep, that's 1 cubic foot, and it's more than a cubic foot really because it's kind of packed in there.
Yeah.
If you see this barcode, pause your video and point your camera at the screen, and it'll take you right to our website.
So we're going to be doing a future video shortly that will compare what you're getting for a certain amount of money in our box versus what you buy at the store. So you can see quantity-wise, and then, of course, this is way better potting.
It's way better.
Mix.
Yep.
So anyway, that'll be interesting to see. We haven't done it before. We got these new packages. We're going to open them up on another video and show you just what you get for the money, comparing to what you get through Sutherland Organics.
So I think people maybe think, well, your starting mix is kind of spendy. Well, you get more packed into that box than you think.
Yeah. Plus so you got all organic, natural nutrients in there.
And it's a high-performing mix.
So you're going to need the mix, and then you're going to need something to put it in. And there's lots of options out there. And this is like a 48 cell tray. Take those out. These are just little inserts, plastic inserts. You can buy by the hundreds or thousands or whatever. And you need a 10-20 tray. That's a standard of the industry, just basically 10 inches by 20 inches. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need that. And I prefer the ones without the holes because sometimes they bottom water.
And you prefer ones that are made to last? These ones are from
these are
Greenhouse?
Greenhouse Megastore, and they're the extra super duty. They're really strong. They'll last years and years and years. Not the things like you buy at the big box store, you barely touch them and they fall apart. So you can get these 48 cell inserts, or you can get, I also use these 36. They all fit in there, made to go in there. 36 cells, a little bit bigger if you got a plant that needs a little bigger root mass before you put it out. Then you can also get.
There's some real small ones there.
Yeah, these are module trays, they're called. And I've tried them for the first time this year. This is like a 50 cell tray, and it doesn't really fit in anything. I mean, it's just kind of an oddball thing. I think what's his name over there in England?
In UK, Charles Dowding.
Charles Dowding. He designed these things and selling them. That doesn't fit in my operation here. Then you get this another module tray, and this is a 30. Let's see, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a 50 cell tray.
And they all have holes in them.
Yeah, so you can put your finger in there and pop the plant right out of there. That's why some of them don't come with a big hole. I think I might have bored these bigger so my finger can fit in there and shove them out.
Maybe you need to make a Dan Sutherland version for
some of them are
big
really
finger
tiny.
people.
You can't get your finger in. Anyway, they fit into the 1020 tray. Okay, so that's nice. That's a 50 cell tray, and this is a little bit bigger one, more cells, but smaller cells. They fit in there, and they also have a little smaller hole. Sometimes you have to get a dowel or your little finger to punch them out. So, and then you got a 128 cell tray, and these are a pain. So you got these little tiny holes in the bottom. You got to use a little teeny thing to punch them out.
But those are only a 1/4-inch holes or so.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
And
where they make them for very small people to use or something.
Yeah. Anyway, no comment.
Maybe it suggests where they're made at. I don't know.
Yeah. These, I tried growing onions in them, starting onions in them this year, and I won't be doing that again. It's just too much trouble. It's not easy to pop them out.
Okay.
So those are the kind of the options that I have available here, but my kind of go-to is the 48 cell trays. These
have little slits in the bottom.
Yeah.
That's just the kind that you end up using.
Yeah, very common. And that way they're easy. You just push it in there and pop the plug out.
Oh, gotcha. So it's thin enough to just
and you can reuse them. I mean, I got stacks of them that you can just reuse. I never sanitize them or anything.
Stacks.
There's whole piles of used ones there.
Yeah.
So they, you can get quite a few seasons out of them if you're careful. Well, you don't get too carried away punching them out. So that's the options you got for the trays. So then we need to fill this with the potting starting mix, and I kind of do a little different way than some people do.
Well, different doesn't mean it's bad. It may be better.
What works for me. I mean, this isn't the only way, or this isn't the best way. This is just what I've come to over 50 years of gardening. This is what I end up doing. So
Are you saying that this is the best way for 50 or I don't know, 70-year-old people to do it?
So I just pour it in there like that, and I got a dustpan. You went, what's he doing with a dustpan? But it just kind of makes it really easy to put that in there, and you can it's usually the corners and the edges that don't get filled enough, and so I just swing that around there like that, and then I just kind of tap it down like this, kind of let it settle, and then I just put a little bit more on top just to finish it off. There you go. And
flatten it off one more time.
And that's the tray's full. And then
so that gives you an idea of how much to pack it. If you're wondering, isn't really pack it yet.
No, we'll do another little packing.
That's about just kind of tamping it down on the floor like that. and then leveling off the top
There we go.
twice.
So we got a tray with a starter mix in there, and then I do this. This is not something you have to do. You can just make a little divot like this if you want, and for your seeds to go in.
And you were talking about doing that for cabbages, and was it?
Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. So what I do with the brassicas, because they always come up, they always grow up, and then they fall over, and then they come up straight, and so you always get this bend in the stem in these things,
Like an L shape.
Brassicas. And so to eliminate that, what I do is I'll just water these whatever cells I'm planting the brassicas in. We'll just pretend that we're planting brassicas in here, and we'll just get this a little damp, and then take your finger, go clear down to the bottom like that, just push it way down, make a big old hole like that, and then I just drop the
Clear
seed
to the bottom, you said.
Yeah. Then I just drop a seed in each one of those, and you don't even have to do anything. Just let it sit there. It'll germinate. You don't have to. You can just kick a little bit in there on top of it, but you really don't need to. It'll germinate without that.
Because there's damp
It's
that way
real
down in there.
damp
Yeah,
down in
damp and the high humidity down in there.
So then once the seedling gets up just above the soil here, then I just take some more fresh potting mix and I just pour it right around, just put it right around this seedling, fill that hole up. And
oh, okay. Yeah, because it's above the top of the cell
and so
in height.
Then you get a nice little brassica seedling coming up just right even with the top of the soil. And you don't have that crook in the stem. So it makes it really nice. It works really good. You have a nice sturdy plant. If you don't do that and you have that crook in the stem, you put it outside and you get a little wind and they're just flopping all around because they got that bend in the stem.
Yeah.
And so this works really good for the brassicas. It's just an extra step, but it really works well.
So for most other seeds, you'd say a little, like, is that a 1/2 inch dip or something?
Yeah.
Half inch deep little dip?
Yeah, that's good. It's plenty. I mean, it's more than what you need for lettuce and things like that. But for
Tomatoes.
peppers and tomatoes, I like to get them down there a little bit. That way, if you put them in there really shallow and you've got a pretty warm area, or maybe your heat mat's running a little warm, they'll germinate so fast, they'll shoot out of the ground, and a lot of times you'll have helmet heads, as they call them, and that's where the seed coat doesn't come off before it comes up to the soil.
It's like the seed shell, the outer layer, the husk of the seed or something.
Yeah, it's still stuck on the top of the stem. It looks really funny, and it's really hard to get those off of there. The only way I know to get them off successfully, because if you be really careful with a pair of tweezers or something and try to break that shell off, you're going to damage things. But you can just spit on it, put a bit of saliva on it, and the enzymes will kind of soften that seed shell, and after 2 or 3 days, it'll come off. So there's a little tip for you.
That's a little secret. Just spit on those helmet heads and it will take care of them and knock those helmets right off.
So plant them deep enough that they'll discard that seed shell before they come up.
Yeah, so it has some resistance as it comes up through the soil. Yeah, it sheds it.
So just go around, poke holes in there, drop your seed in. And tomatoes, I just generally, unless they're a high-priced seed, I just put 2 seeds in there in each hole, and then I just pinch off the weaker one or the 2, and just keep one. Don't be tempted to keep 2 in there. That's too many tomatoes for a little tiny cell. So I guess we could go ahead and plant. We can put some peppers. I need to plant some peppers, so we'll just
fill those deep ones back in.
Put some pepper seeds in here. We'll just fill those holes back in, and it'll be fine. So, and our favorite pepper is Carmen. It's an Italian sweet pepper. I'm not really into hot peppers, so this is my favorite. It's kind of a long, it goes 6 to 8 inches long, nice red, really, really sweet.
Really good, yes.
Way better than bell peppers.
Yeah.
Don't give that funny aftertaste that you get with bell peppers.
Well, you can see some of our pepper videos. You had a whole bunch planted out there in
yeah.
the scrog or the horizontal lattice support system that we built. So there's that video on our channel from last season.
With peppers, I just plant one seed because they usually germinate pretty good. So we just put one seed in each deal here. And there's other ways you can do this. You could just have a flat, use this flat without these inserts here, and you could just sprinkle all your seeds in this whole flat.
Oh, full of soil without the insert cells.
Just fill the flat up with soil, and then sprinkle your seeds in, and then you have to, once you're up, then you have to transplant them all into cells like this, or bigger pots, or cups, or whatever.
So you have to break it, all the little seedlings out of the soil and separate them.
Yeah,
which is tedious.
It's just more work. I'm not in it just to do more work.
I don't think most people are.
So I do it this way, and you might have a cell that doesn't, a seed that doesn't germinate, but I always overplant, have more planted than I'll ever use. So it doesn't make any difference if one doesn't come up. It's pretty simple, and if you happen to drop 2 in a cell, don't worry about it. I just keep it going. And unfortunately, these Carmen peppers are a hybrid, so I can't save the seed from them, so you have to buy new seed every year. But lunch boxes, the orange lunch box is my other favorite one for
saving seed.
Saving seed.
And it's yummy.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a little short pepper, bright orange, and boy, they're sweet. They're delicious. Okay, so
you can get lunchbox pepper seeds at our website.
Yeah.
And they came from our garden.
Came from this garden.
Yep.
Okay. So we got those in there. So then I'll just take some of this and just kind of put it on here. You don't have to be fussy or fancy. And just kind of smooth it in. That fills in all the divots around the seeds. And then I kind of do this. You don't have to do this. I've got this little block thing here that I like to get them kind of packed down a little bit, so I've got really good contact with the seed, and it's not like air pockets. It's going to be around the seed where it slows down the germination process. So
basically what that is doing is making sure that moisture is in contact with the seed.
Yeah, that's right. And like I say, you don't have to do this. It's just an extra step that I do.
Hey, we can make cell packing
blocks
and sell them with laser etched Sutherland organics on them or something. Let us know if you'd actually be interested in something like that down in the comment section. You never know.
Yeah, and you can make different sizes for
different cells.
Inserts.
Just sell a kit with different size blocks.
Okay, so that's all planted. Don't want to forget to label it so you know what you got in there. So since this whole tray is Carmen peppers, I just have to use one tag to do it instead of a whole bunch of different varieties. So I'll just stick that in here. And these are just the vinyl mini blinds that I've cut with a chop saw and just cut a little point on them. And so you got you can get a whole piles of them from a mini blind. It don't cost you. You can go to Goodwill or somewhere and get an old mini blind for a couple bucks. Chop them up, and you get all the plant markers you'll ever need.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
So now you want to water this, get these things germinating. And I do the top watering because doing the bottom watering, by the time you get the moisture all the way to the level the seed is in there, it's too wet. The whole thing's just totally saturated if you do the bottom watering. So I don't do that. So I just water it from the top. And it takes a little bit of time, especially with this sprayer here. It's kind of slow, but it gets the job done. And I try not to put so much in there that the whole thing, maybe the moisture goes down maybe halfway through the plug. You don't need the whole thing just wet. And you can kind of just put it on a cell to kind of see when the water starts to pool up on top. And then you can back off, and that's about all that it needs to germinate those seeds.
So just one time of letting the water kind of puddle up, and
yeah, sometimes I'll go back over if if the mix is really dry.
probably depends on how big of cells you have as well.
Yeah. This water smells like I've had fish fertilizer in it.
Fish hydrolysate?
Yeah. Stinks, but it goes away shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want a soil mix for seed starting that's real hot. If you're going to make your own, you don't want to put very much nitrogen in there. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with hindering the seeds from germinating.
And mold issues, and especially in a more humid, warm environment.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute, about the humidity that's needed and how to control it so they don't get mold. This mix here would mold if I just put a dome on it and let it be. It would mold probably before the seeds germinated. So we got to keep that from happening.
Mm-hmm. When you see, well, mold necessarily isn't a bad thing. I mean, in one way, it does indicate that your soil mix has a lot of nutrition, because the mold itself is feeding on the same stuff that your seedling is going to need as it grows. But the mold will hurt your seed start.
Yeah, the germinating,
Mm-hmm.
it's not good for that.
But if you have a mix that doesn't even have any mold on the top, or any kind of algae, I should say, maybe, a lot of times it's lacking on nutrients.
Yeah.
Because if the mold or the algae or anything isn't showing on the top, it can be an indicator that it's kind of sterile and not really.
Yeah, because if it's just peat moss and perlite and maybe coca-cola, it's not going to mold. And then you got a dead mix for, because you want some nutrients in there to start with.
Mm-hmm.
The seed has enough to sustain life until it gets its first true leaves, but even then I like to put a little bit in there, just it helps.
And you'll see
a good start.
Over here, this is some of our started tomatoes, and we'll have another video coming out on our seed starting mix, and we'll talk about this in more detail. But you can see on some of these, there's some pretty dark green algae growing on the top. And we did some tests against some other mixes that you can buy at the big box stores, and some of them had zero algae or mold or anything growing on the top. And guess what? The plants didn't do very well.
Yeah, they just petered out shortly and turned all yellow and shriveled up. Mm-hmm. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that watered, and so now, so you don't get mold, what I like to do is I use the high domes. 2 reasons. You've got a bunch of plant markers in here. The shallow domes are going to get hung up, won't set down on that plant marker's too tall. And so you want to have a tall one put on there. And these are polycarbonate, so they last quite a few years. They work really well. These also came from, I think, Greenhouse Mega Store.
Uh-huh.
And the nice thing about these, they got 4 vents in them. You got a vent hole here, you just turn it like that and close it off. Turn it like that, open it up or partially open, whatever you want to do.
Uh-huh.
And you got 2 more up here and another one on this side.
Uh-huh.
So when you're germinating with a hot mix that's a little warm.
You mean high nitrogen?
Nitrogen in it. Mm-hmm. I like to leave these all open.
All the vents.
Just leave them all open. And it still keeps enough moisture and humidity in there that it doesn't dry out. You know, it's fine. You think that it would dry out, but it really doesn't. It's still enclosed good enough that it doesn't dry out. And that really helps keep the mold issue down. and the algae from growing.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to have short plant markers, and you can use a short dome like this, you still want to keep these vents. These have just 2 vents, same kind of thing. You want to leave those open, but it just doesn't have as much air in there, and so that's why I like the big taller dome. It just has worked much better for me. So once you get that all set up, the dome's on, then you're ready to put it under. Put it on a heat mat if you want to use a heat mat, or if your room's warm enough, I would recommend using just a warm room if you can. I don't really care for heat mats too much. They tend to make the seeds germinate unevenly because you'll have warm spots and where the tray may set tight against the heat mat in certain areas, and other areas it doesn't set tight against the heat mat, and so it gives an uneven heating on the soil. So you get a few plants here and a few plants there that are ahead of the others, and I like to have more of an even crop that's ready to all go out at one time into the garden or the greenhouse. So I prefer not to use the heat mat if I can keep the room warm enough. And tomatoes, peppers, they'll all germinate even in the 75-degree weather room that you have. So in the shop here, I just crank the heat up for the short time that it takes to germinate these seeds.
So can you show us this heat mat that's under here?
This is just one of those cheap ones you can get from Amazon. They're really cheap. I don't know, they're like $8 or $9. And if you need it, they'll work. Just don't expect real even germination on it. So that heat mat on this is just a little small setup. If I'm just doing one tray or something, that heat mat's plugged into the thermostat here. You can see the digital thermostat, and it's heating right now at 71.6, and let's see what it's set. It's set for 77. When it's flashing, it means it's 77. It's set point.
You can set it whatever you need.
You can set it for whatever you want.
Anyway.
If you're wanting to do peppers and get them up fast, you can just jack up to 80, 85 degrees and get them going faster.
Normally that little thermostat and that little box would be all closed in like this. So
you can
with
buy
a nice little plate.
Pre-made ones at Amazon that you just plug and play. They're only like $30, $35. And these things I've put together myself. And then you need a timer, just as simple. I like the mechanical timer. I don't like the digital because you always got to be fiddling with programming the thing. It takes forever. So this is just easier, and it works great. So you just set for how many hours you want on and how many hours you want off, and it takes care of the lights. And now lighting, I see quite a few people actually have lights that are way underpowered for growing plants. And sometimes you see these things on Amazon. They'll have these, looks like a floor lamp with these long things coming out, and they got LED lights on.
I saw some of those, yeah.
Yeah, they look like a spider kind of thing with spider legs. Those things, don't waste your money on those. They don't have enough light lumens to do anything. You have tall, stringy plants. So these lights, we can put a link in the description down below, that have worked really well for us. And they're very inexpensive.
Yeah.
I think you can get 2 4-footers for like $55 or something like that.
Yep.
And you want the like the daylight color, the 5000K light spectrum. They
or
also
a hair
have
above
3000K, and it's 3000. You don't really want that for starting plants.
Yeah, too warm.
Yeah, it's for blooming, fruiting plants, and we're not doing that. We're just getting seeds started and growing.
This one says it's 4523K, so 4,523 on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even if it's above, I think I've seen some that are above 5,000, so just around that area.
Yeah, a nice white light, and then you got to keep them down. For this, if, like this is peppers, this is about the right height to start them out at, and as the peppers grow, you'll want to raise that up as the peppers grow. Otherwise, you'll burn it and it'll start frying the peppers.
So can you tell us about how long the dome stays on, and then removal of it, and why?
I watch my seedlings, the plugs really close, and if I have a good idea when they're going to be coming out of the ground. And so if I don't even see one, I'll turn the light on when I think they should be coming up. And
Oh, okay, okay. Hey, just a second. So you're basically saying you don't have the lights running
Yeah.
while they're starting to germinate.
Right.
So you put it under there, the lights are off
Yeah.
until you think that they're going to come up or you
Yeah.
might see one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then turn the lights on. That
Uh-huh.
way, the moment they are exposed to light, they got this bright light, and
Mm-hmm.
that'll keep them from going leggy and getting all tall and stringy
Mm-hmm.
and weak. So, yeah, whenever, peppers take longer than tomatoes usually. Tomatoes, if you got everything dialed in, you should be 3 days or so to germinate, come up. So then I just turn the light on ahead of time, just so it's always on. And I leave the light on. If it's like on a tray like this with a heat mat, I'll leave the light on 24/7 to start with. Because if you turn the light off at night and you still got warmth in the tray here in the soil, they're going to be growing during the night in the dark, and they're going to get tall and stringy. And you don't want that. You want to have, whenever they're growing, you want to get bright light on them.
You want stocky
plants.
Yes.
Yeah. And like this. These have been put out in the sunlight recently, and they're getting kind of stringy. But you can see how thick the stems are. They're nice and thick.
Well, they've not been in bright light conditions.
No,
is what you meant.
they started out with under lights, but then the grandson moved them into a window, and so they've just been in a window, and they're getting taller.
Yeah, they are
more lanky. They're not bad at all.
No,
but they're just not what they could be if you had them under lights.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us when you'd remove the dome?
Yeah, I'll remove the dome as soon as the seeds are germinated. As soon as they're up, take the dome off, because you really don't want to keep all that moisture in there. You want to get that off there so that you don't have any chance of mold growing.
Yeah, so do you wait till
air circulation?
Sorry. So do you wait till all of the seeds are poked up and showing?
Sometimes you get stragglers that are really late. I don't wait for them to come up.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority, like if you have 80% of them up, then I take the dome off. And the rest you'll just have to be careful. For the ones that haven't germinated, just make sure you keep them moist and see if they'll germinate with the dome off, because they're going to tend to dry out faster with the dome off.
Yeah.
You just kind of keep an eye on when the medium starts to change color, looks dry, then I'll usually top water these. Pretty much, I'll just top water these until they're ready to go out in the garden. Bottom watering, you have to be careful not to overdo it with the bottom watering, because it just gets so saturated. It's easy to overwater them. And
so you would definitely recommend just top watering all starts and all germination
most people
processes.
don't do that. If you have a damping off issue with your plants, then you can't really do top watering. You need to do a bottom watering if you have a damping off disease problem.
Can you explain to people what damping off is? Because some people probably don't know.
Yes, it'll get a weak spot right at the soil level of the plant or on the stem. It'll get it'll start to shrivel up, and then the plant just falls over and dies. And so if that starts to happen, you better get some air moving across it and get some air circulating, and try to dry the surface out at least of the mix, and so you can try to keep that from progressing any further.
So put a fan or something a little ways away.
Yeah, just put a little. You don't want to be blowing a lot of air across it, because you just dry everything out. But just a little bit of air,
just movement.
Slight air movement, just to dry that out. It will help.
And so just to reiterate, damping off is caused by overwatering generally,
and just keeping it too wet for too long.
Too wet for too long. Okay.
And the warmth, the warm environment and being wet too long, it's not good. You're inviting trouble.
Okay.
So then on tomatoes or peppers, I'll usually let them get to maybe 4 inches tall, and then they go out. When they're transplanted. So I try to time it, when I think the frost-free time is here in this area, and so I can set them out, and they won't get too big, because once they get too big, they're going to be starting to get root bound, and it's going to hinder the plant. Its final production is going to be hindered by having a bad start. You want to have everything in an even progression until they get outside and start producing outside. You don't want to put a kink in their progress.
Yeah, so when they get root bound, that basically is creating a problem. I mean, for the plant, and stresses the plant.
Yeah.
And then they have to kind of pick up from that stress and keep
Yeah.
going. And you're saying it'll impact their final output.
Yeah, it just impacts your final production.
Uh-huh.
And then when you buy them at the big box store, pretty much most all those are root bound already. They've been in the pots too long.
Uh-huh.
And you got the worker guy that's supposed to be in charge of watering the things, you know, he puts this oscillating sprinkler out there and he lets it run all night or whatever and just washes all the organic nutrients, if they have organic, or the synthetic nutrients out, and they're not kept, you know, they're not being taken care of like they should be. So you're already buying a stressed plant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason, you know, why you don't want to buy it from there and you want to start your own.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to understand. What about your light cycling and schedule?
For peppers and tomatoes, what I usually do is it's going to be on 16 on and 8 off.
Mm-hmm.
And you can if you want to save a little bit of money, you can probably drop that down an hour shorter on the on and an hour longer on the off.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't make too much difference as long as you have your light right and your heat right. Because the worst thing you can do is have this nice and warm soil and not have enough light.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're just going to start growing like you're going to walk, wow, they're really growing. But yeah, they're going to grow real tall and stringy and be really weak. And they can't take the wind outside when you set them outside, and they'll fall over and it'll just be a mess. So you want a nice stocky little plant when they go outside.
Yeah. So what about, I don't know if you had said something about the heat mat settings. Just like general rule of thumb.
For tomatoes, I actually, you know, I'm not using a heat mat anymore. I'm just doing it. But if you have to use a heat mat, you can set it at 76, 78. I wouldn't go any more than 78.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is anywhere from 68 to 75 is what I've seen.
Yeah.
For soil
if you want to
temperature.
You know, you can speed it up by jacking it up, but there's only so much that you can jack it up and without causing problems. So
yeah, in the soil.
Yeah. I wouldn't go more than 78 at the max. If you're doing peppers, you can go more. You can go up to 85 with the peppers, or pumpkins or that kind of thing. You can go 85. Zucchinis, whatever. But I don't germinate those. I put those out in the garden. I don't mess with it.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, that's great to have a couple pointers in that direction.
So this is just a small setup for like if I'm just doing one tray of something. And then you can use a bigger setup. This is another setup here. And I've got 4-foot lights here. There's 2 4-footers, and then there's a 2-footer at the end because this is 5 feet long. The heat mat's 5 foot long. And it's a commercial heat mat. It's a hard rubber mat. So you can put 5 flats across there. And you notice that this isn't very tall here because, you know, it's just for getting these seedlings up, you know, 4 inches tall. And then they need to go outside. You wouldn't want to grow like a micro tomato or something to maturity under here because it'd be up here next to the light and it'd be burnt.
Yep. So that's more of a germination chamber, technically.
Just get them up and get ready to go outside. And so this is the same kind of light, just 4 foot as that 2-footer that we had. And these are the other kind of lights that we use. You can see there's more distance here, so you can grow taller plants up here.
That's it's like 2.5 feet or something?
Yeah, I think something like that. And these have different settings, so you can, there's off, and then there's 25% light, and there's 50%, and there's 75%, and then there's 100%. So you can kind of dial it into whatever your plant needs. Like if you're growing lettuce, you only need 25 to 50% on those lights.
And these lights, what kind are these? Is Vipar Spectra?
Yeah, these are Vipar Spectra. You can see that right there.
And
Spectra Vipar.
Powered by Samsung LEDs. You can find these on Amazon.
Yeah, they're a really nice light. They work really great. My other son has probably 50 some of these lights in his grow room, and he's never had a problem with them yet. So they're a good light, and they're not that expensive either. And of course, they're all hooked up with timers and thermostats. And there's another.
And you just got to make sure you have a fancy, wood thing like this in front of your A
I just made
germination
a
chamber.
headboard yesterday, so I got to get it up in the house. There's another chamber back in
Is that
here.
the headboard that you wake up and hit your head on?
Yeah,
All the
right.
way went to bed. No,
So
that looks beautiful.
There's another germination chamber, grow chamber in here, and then there's another one down below. So it's 4 tiers on this thing. Keeps me in seedlings, keep me busy.
Yeah.
And it's
so
on
this-
caster, so I can roll it around in the shop.
yeah, that's really nice. You can just do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, so you're not so crowded with. You always end up with more plants than what you figure.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty well covers seed starting, unless you can think of something, Luke.
No, I would just add, we've been developing our seed starting mix, and it's a high performing seed starting mix. We've been doing a lot of different testing and that kind of thing, and testing variations and adjusting all different kind of nutrients in them.
Yeah, you can see
And-
you can see all these pots are all labeled with numbers. These are all test plants, and here, like, this is number 5. These are all different formulas in the mix that they're growing in, and so it's been very interesting to see how different nutrients affect the plant and how well they do. These have just been watered with just plain water,
Yeah.
so that we're not adding anything. We wanted just to see what the medium will support
Right.
and not add any kind of fertilizer to them. And we did that. We've already run one preliminary test on some of the store-bought soil mixes, and we'll have a video on that eventually.
Yeah.
And it's pretty eye-opening. You don't really want to buy seed starting mix from the store.
Yeah. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pretty fun to see the results, but it was, some of them were kind of shocking from name brand.
Yeah.
Total name brand failures, I'd say.
Yeah. You got to use a liquid fertilizer right off the get-go if you use them.
And actually, some of those brands, when you buy them, like on Amazon, they sell a little nutrient packet to go
really?
with it. Yeah.
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 Because there's not enough in there to support a plant
Right.
for very long. So
So you can check out our seed starting mix on our website, as
Yeah.
we've already said, and we'll send you some, and it'll come in a box like this. And we got
what size of box is this?
3 different sizes. That size is an 8.8 quart box.
Okay, and this one is what?
That's a 2.8 quart,
And this is a
and that's a 1 cubic foot.
1 cubic foot.
So this is basically an 8-inch cube box here.
Uh-huh.
And that's a 12-inch square, the big one, and the small one's a 3 by 6 by 9 inch.
Yeah, they feel like they're pretty well packed. They're pretty heavy.
Yeah. And our mix is a lightweight mix, so it's not dense. So that it's not too heavy and the plants grow well in it.
Oh yeah, another thing might mention is that we run all the peat moss and the cocoa through a shredding machine, so that you don't have all those sticks and chunks and junk in the peat moss. So it's really fine.
And cocoa core, yeah.
Yeah, smooth mix without a bunch of junk in it.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a video on that. We'll open these boxes up. You'll see what our starting mix looks like. We're going to compare it to all these other ones here that we have, and then kind of do a volume comparison. And because I think people maybe think, hey, that's expensive, but there's a bit packed in there for what you get.
Yeah, just to show you what you get, what you get for your money. So
Yeah.
And then one other thing I forgot. I just use it's like a concrete mixing tray or grout mixing tray you can get from Home Depot or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that just for mixing up small batches of soil. It makes it really easy to put your stuff in here and mix it around by hand. And
A little bit better than a tarp.
yeah, a lot better than a tarp. Or I do it on the concrete floor if I'm doing a big batch where I really have a large quantity of it. But for seed starting, it's pretty much just I use this. You can get quite a bit in here, the mix, and you can really get it mixed good, because when you're starting putting like mycorrhizae in there and kelp and different things, you want it really thoroughly mixed so one cell doesn't get a little bit more or something than the other cell, so it's all more evenly distributed. And that's where when we make the mix that we sell, it's actually mixed in a real mixture that mixes it really thoroughly. So you don't have an uneven mix and uneven germination, uneven growth in the plants.
Yeah.
If you're kind of handy and you want to make some kind of a light stand, these are different. It's different things that are kind of just sitting here for storage right now. But there's
Got a light on
this
there.
one here. You can put 2 trays under it. It's extra life. And it's another 4-footer here. You know, just you can just cobble something up with scrap lumber and hang your lights on them, and be really cheap and inexpensive to do.
Make them out some pallet boards or something.
Yeah, you just use whatever you have laying around and just make it so you can hang a light, and it makes a really easy and cheap lighting source for your plants.
Well, I hope all of you guys enjoyed that discussion and tutorial on starting and germinating your seeds. That's a lot of fun to be able to do it yourself and see the value of it and know what you're getting when you grow it, and you're not getting starts that are fed and grown on a bunch of commercial chemical fertilizers. If you really enjoyed this and you would like to learn more about how we do gardening and how Dad grows some of his large produce and has an abundant garden, just watch a lot of our other videos on our channel here. You'll find a lot of valuable information there, a lot of tips and tricks that I probably won't find in very many other channels.
Yeah.
We don't just watch other channels and go see what they're saying and then just repeat it like parrots. We try out different methods and see what works best, and it's a lot of combined years of experience.
Yeah.
Mostly Dad's, and I'm not near as knowledgeable as he is. But if you enjoyed this, leave us a comment down in the section below. We read them. They're a lot of fun, and we have some that are pretty funny. I really think it's pretty interesting, some of those feedbacks you guys give us. Also remember, you can find a lot of the soil amendments that we use in our soil mixes and on our garden at our website, sutherlandorganics.com. That's Sutherland and then ORGANIX.com. You'll find a link down in the description of this video, and maybe some links for some products you can just click on right there. It'll take you right to the store. So also, don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps our channel to stand out and get more views, helps us to make a few more bucks, which is necessary so we can take time to make more videos for you. So if you like this content, support us by subscribing or even becoming a channel member for a small fee every month. That's a big help. We also are on Patreon, and you can support us there too if you want. Anyway, always remember, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me.